Hello, welcome back to another math video. This morning we'll be learning about solving problems involving quadratic equations and rational algebraic equations. So before we start, take note that when solving word problems, we need to analyze first the problem, formulate the equation, solve, and choose the value that will make sense. So we'll have problem number 1. The length of a rectangular box is 20 meters less than thrice the width. If the area of the field is 448 square meters, what are the dimensions of the rectangular box? First thing that we should do is list down the things that we know. From this problem, we know that the length is 20 meters less than thrice the width. We also know that the area is equal to 448 square meters. And we also know that the area is given by length times width. So for instance, this will be our rectangular box. If we let x as our width, our length will be 3x minus 20. And we also know that the area again is equal to 448 square meters. So from this, since we know that the area is given by length times width, we will substitute the values. So we will write 448 is equal to the width, which is our x, times the length, which is 3x minus 20. Distribute x to 3x minus 20. We will have 448 is equal to 3x squared minus 20x. Equate to 0. We will have 3x squared minus 20x minus 448 is equal to 0. So in this example, I will be using the quadratic formula. So a is equal to 3, b is equal to negative 20, c is a negative 448. We will substitute those values to our formula, and then we will have the negative of negative 20 plus minus the square root of negative 20 squared minus 4 times 3 times the negative 448 all over 2 times 3, and that will give us x is equal to 20 plus minus 400 plus 5,376 all over 6. We will now simplify. This will give us x is equal to 20 plus minus the square root of 5,776 all over 6. We will now solve for x. X will be equal to 16 and a negative 28 over 3. And remember, we are dealing with dimensions. So basically, we will disregard the negative value and focus on the positive value. Since x is equal to 16, we will have 16 as our width, and for our length, we will substitute 16 to 3x minus 20. That will give us 28. So therefore, the dimension of the rectangular box are 16 meters and 28 meters respectively. Example number 2. The sum of two numbers is 18 and the product of these two numbers is 56. What are the numbers? So again, what do we know about this problem? First, we know that the sum of two numbers is 18. The product of these numbers is 56. And if x is the smaller number, then the larger number is 18 minus x. And since again, the product of these numbers is 56, we will write x as our smaller number times 18 minus x, our larger number, and that should give us 56. Distribute x, we will have 18x minus x squared is equal to 56. Equate to 0, we will have x squared minus 18x plus 56 is equal to 0. And since we have now a quadratic equation, we will solve the roots of this equation by using the quadratic formula. Our a is 1, our b is negative 18, our c is 56. So we will substitute these values in our quadratic formula. We will have x is equal to the negative of negative 18 plus minus the square root of negative 18 squared minus 4 times 1 times 56 all over 2 times 1. That will give us x is equal to 18 plus minus the square root of 324 minus 224 all over 2. If we simplify this one, 324 minus 224 will give us 100. So solve for x. We will now have x is equal to 18 plus minus 10 all over 2, giving us x is equal to 14, and then the other x will be equal to 4. Going back to our problem, we let x as the smaller number. So basically, we will reject x is equal to 14 and only accept x is equal to 4. So therefore, the two numbers are 4, which is our small number, and 14, which is our larger number respectively. So you can check that one by multiplying 4 times 14. That should give you a 56. And 4 plus 14 will give you 18. We'll have example number 3. Judd went to a conference in a city 120 kilometers away. On the way back, due to road construction, he had to drive 10 kilometers per hour slower, which resulted in the return trip taking 2 hours longer. How fast did he drive on the way to the conference? So again, what do we know about this problem? So we know that Judd went to a conference in a city 120 kilometers away. So distance is 120 kilometers. Using a distance formula, that is distance is equal to rate times time, we can write 120 is equal to r times t. To solve for r, we will have 120 over t, and to solve for t, we will have 120 over r respectively. We also know that on his way back, he had to drive 10 km per hour slower, which resulted to the return trip 2 hours longer. Using the distance formula, which is d is equal to rate times time, we can write 120 is equal to the quantity of r minus 10 times the quantity of t plus 2. Why do we wrote r minus 10? Because again, on his way back, he had to drive 10 km per hour slower. And why do we write t plus 2? Because again, the return trip resulted to 2 hours longer. So we need to add 2 to our initial time. To cancel out t in this equation, we will use our established equation earlier, which is t is equal to 120 over r. So we will substitute that value to our t. That will give us 120 is equal to the quantity of r minus 10 times the quantity of 120 over r plus 2. We will then multiply our entire equation by r to eliminate the fraction. So we will have now 120r is equal to the quantity of r minus 10 times the quantity of 120 plus 2r. After this, we will be using the FOIL method to expand this part of our equation, and that will give us 120r is equal to r times 120, that will give you 120r, r times 2r, that will give you 2r squared, negative 10 times 120 will give you 1200, negative 10 times 2r will give you 20r. Combine like terms, we will now have 120r is equal to 120r minus 20r will give you 100r, and then we just copy 2r squared and negative 1200. We will now equate to 0, so we will have 2r squared plus 100r minus 120r minus 1200 is equal to 0. Combine like terms, we will have 2r squared minus 20r minus 1200 is equal to 0. Notice that this equation can be reduced by dividing it by 2. So divide everything by 2, we will have r squared minus 10r minus 600 is equal to 0. And again, this is now a quadratic equation. So to solve for r, I will be utilizing the AC method. So first, we will identify our a, b, and c. A is 1, b is a negative 10, c is a negative 600. So since c is negative 600, we will look at the factors of negative 600 in such a way that when added, that will give us a negative 10. So in this example, we will have negative 30 and a positive 20. Negative 30 times 20 will give you negative 600. Negative 30 plus 20 will give you a negative 10. So therefore, these are the numbers that we are looking. So we will write the quantity of r minus 30 times the quantity of r plus 20 is equal to 0. Equate each term to 0, we will have r minus 30 is equal to 0, r plus 20 is equal to 0. Solve for r, we will have r is equal to 30, r is equal to negative 20. But then again, we are dealing with the rate, so basically we will disregard the negative solution and will focus on the positive one. So r is equal to 30. Therefore, Judd drove at a rate of 30 kilometers per hour on the way to the conference. We'll see you in our next video.